Welcome to On Texas Football. It's time for the Saturday morning conversation. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton. Gerry, let's talk a little Longhorn football and athletics as a whole. Obviously, the big news this week, the future of Rodney Terry. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also talk a little spring football action and what the three things are we're looking for mainly from this Texas team beginning on Tuesday when they kickstart spring ball. We'll talk a little bit about Pro Day coming up for the Longhorns as well, that very same day on March 25th, Tuesday. But first, we want to pass along our condolences and prayers to the family of Kenneth Sims, the former Longhorn defensive tackle who was the number one overall pick by the New England Patriots in 1982, a two-time All-American at the University of Texas, a unanimous All-American in 1981, a consensus All-American in 1980. Literally one of the best, most dominating players ever to play at the University of Texas. Lombardi Award winner as well, member of the Texas Hall of Honor. The list goes on and on. He was on that 10-1-1 team that beat Alabama in the Cotton Bowl January 1st, 1982. But literally one of the very few players ever at the University of Texas that has been the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. Again, Kenneth Sims passed away. Our condolences to his family yesterday.
First Lombardi Award winner for Texas, College Football Hall of Fame inductee. I mean, one of the great Longhorns of all time.
Tremendous player. Not many people know his recruiting story, but I was lucky enough to have heard it from Ken Dabbs, the former Texas recruiting coordinator, way back. Kenneth played at Tiny Groesbeck High School, Gerry. He actually quit football his junior year of high school. And they got him to go back out the next year because he didn't have to play defensive tackle. He wanted to play tight end and linebacker. So they let him do that. And long story short, because of that, he wasn't highly recruited until the very end of his senior season because people didn't know who he was. Ken Dabbs, the former recruiting coordinator for the University of Texas, didn't even know who he was until he was tipped off by a Rice coach like down in Houston, and he didn't even know where Cossie, Texas is, and that's where Kenneth Sims was actually from. But look, long story short, long career in the NFL, excellent career at the University of Texas. Our well wishes to Kenneth Sims, a Longhorn through and through. Gerry, we talk about this next piece. Rodney Terry is a Longhorn through and through too. Yeah. Really good guy. But look, the writing is on the wall here. I want to ask you more than anything, what you think Texas should be looking for in a head coach for basketball. I don't want to, belabor all this other stuff. We talked about it ad nauseum. What should Chris Del Conte be looking for in a head coach for basketball at Texas? Because you've called Texas a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's wake them up. What do they need to look for,
Yeah, so look, they're going to get an established coach, somebody with NCAA success, whether that's a younger guy who's been to Sweet 16, challenged for Elite Eights, whether it's a more veteran guy who's been to Elite Eights and, who knows beyond that, right? But I look, so that's not even a part of my thinking because that part will be done. They're going to get a solid basketball coach who I think the Texas opportunity could be one that gives them a chance to build a legacy of sorts. But I wrote this on ontexasfootball.com in response to a question on Friday. High-end offensive system and style. And for me, what is that? 70-plus possessions per game, which would put you in the top 25 range in college basketball, top 35 range, 70-plus possessions per game. And with top-tier offensive efficiency. So in the top 40, top 50 range of efficiency as well. That's what
when you say top, it's important because I think this is something that's important for college football fans, and that's what majority of Texas fans are, football fans. Yeah. When you say top 40 in basketball, you're not talking about of 120 teams.
364.
364 college basketball teams. Whereas football, if you're top 40, you're only in the top third. So you're shooting for the top 10, top 20.
Good point.
Basketball is so much bigger. So top 40 is literally in that top 10% range.
It is.
From a production percent.
And why that's important to me is if you look at the SEC and you look at where college basketball has been headed and where it is headed, more so because of the NBA game, because of the analytics-driven game model that some people are adapting to and adopting in college basketball, because of the rules that are obviously all the rules in sports are made for offensive basketball. But then you look at the SEC, you look at Florida, you look at Alabama, you look at Auburn. I mean, these are teams. Mark Pope averaged 85 a game at Kentucky this year. They're a 3 seed, even though through the injuries. You have to be able to score the basketball at a high level to be a true competitor at the top tier of the SEC. And, I mean, the days of grinding out low possessions in this conference is going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be tough long term. So, and then it plays into filling the Moody Center and having excitement around the program. There's 2 ways to build excitement around a Texas basketball with a fan base that's more football driven, if you ask me. One, it's some unicorn hire, which your percentages are always low at doing that, right? 2,
define a unicorn. When you're talking about Jay Wright, who won
Bill Self, Mark Few, Billy Donovan.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So once you get past that, right, that's one way that it just galvanizes a fan base and they feel like they have to be there. The other is a great style of play and exciting, fun atmosphere at college basketball games. And I think Texas will accomplish that. My second thing is a strong offensive talent evaluation. That's the only way the number one is going to work, is if you have a strong offensive talent evaluation. And through strong offensive talent evaluation, those are going to build really good rosters with depth of offensive players, with a roster that blends well together. Because it's not like you're going to recruit 2 defensive stoppers and 3 offensive players. That's just not going to happen. You're going to recruit you're going to evaluate offensive players, basketball players really well. And those rosters tend to meld together. Look at what the University of Florida is doing under Todd Golden and Nate Oates at Alabama. And then my third thing is ability and willingness to go anywhere to recruit. One of the things that I think makes Texas a sleeping giant in basketball is Texas has never really been a power or competitor in international recruiting. And you see more and more high quality players coming from outside the United States to college basketball. And I believe because Texas is a worldwide brand and they have brand recognition literally anywhere you go, that Texas, with the right hire, somebody that has international experience or the connections or the willingness to go get that done, I think Texas can be one of the top basketball schools in terms of international recruiting. And I think you have to be because there's more kids coming to the States to play college basketball. Is it because of NIL? Probably. It's also a pretty good vehicle to play professional basketball. And the college game is becoming closer to the European game, as Rick Pitino's talked about. So I think those are my 3 keys, because I don't worry about success of a coach. CDC is going to hire somebody who is the right guy. I think we know that.
Yeah.
So it's the other 3 things that I think are going to go into making him have a chance to maximize the University of Texas in basketball. And those are really the things I'm looking for.
So top 10% offensive efficiency, recruit offensive talent primarily, and then go anywhere to recruit that talent, including international. And when you say international, do you really right now, is that mostly, and just out of curiosity, because I don't follow basketball recruiting as much as I do football, obviously. Is that a lot of that coming from Europe, or is it from everywhere these days? I mean,
Europe, Australia. I mean, there's been some tremendous players that have come from Australia and Europe, and all those countries in Europe.
Okay.
There's guys spread all over college basketball that have ended up in the NBA from a number of countries. So I think you have to have eyes, you have to have people in that part of the scouting world.
Let me ask you 2 things. Two of the people that we know or we believe strongly being considered for this position: Sean Miller at Xavier and Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. Do they have that pedigree that you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Are they 70 plus possessions? Do they know offensive talent? And do
Yes.
they recruit internationally? All
Yes,
three of
all
those
three
things?
of those guys check all those boxes, as well as tournament success. Tommy Lloyd's a little younger. This is his 4th year at Arizona as a head coach. 4th year as a head coach. He's been to the tournament twice. He's had 2 Sweet 16s. Obviously, Sean Miller's 56 years old. He's been to 4 Elite Eights, 1 at Xavier, 3 at Arizona. Been to 8 Sweet 16s out of 13 or 14 tournament appearances. So his hit rate's really high of playing the second weekend, and had a number of NBA players at Arizona, including more than one international guys that are really good players in the NBA right now, like Lauri Markkanen for the Utah Jazz. So I think both of those guys check all those boxes. And that's why, me personally, if it ends up being one of those two guys, as I'm really excited for the future of Texas basketball. Does that mean you're going to go win a national championship? You can't predict all that stuff, right? Things have to fall into place. You have to have a little luck. You got to stay injury free at the right times, and things really have to come together and get on a really hot streak. But those 3 guys would check all those boxes that I talked about. So it would excite me about the possibilities of where Texas basketball could go in an SEC, which you're going to have to score the basketball. And from the first round of the NCAA tournament, most of these winning scores are in the 80s. You have to be able to score 80-plus points a lot of the time in SEC play and in the NCAA tournament. That's where the game of basketball is headed.
Texas lost 86-80 to Xavier on Wednesday night, and it's in the 80s after being relatively low scoring for Xavier in the first half.
Yep.
Of that game. They came back and laid it on in the second half. All right, one final thing I want to mention there. You mentioned Sean Miller and Tommy Lloyd, both former coaches at Arizona. I think it's funny because Chris Del Conte, one of his first jobs in his career was as an associate AD at the University of Arizona. All right, let's move forward to some football talk here. Spring practice starts on Tuesday, Jerry. You and I wanted to talk about 3 things today that we think we're going to be watching for as spring develops. Now, this is beyond the idea of watching the freshmen develop. Right. This is more position specific. You and I wrote these 3 things down. Let's talk about them. Skill position development on offense. Particularly, think about it. They got to find a new tight end. They're indoctrinating new wide receivers above because they're losing 3 of the guys in Golden, Bond, as well as Bolden. And then also the running back room. Trey Wiseman, they know what they can do. I think they're going to be a little light on his carry load this spring. So you're going to be able to see more of those guys. So the skill position on offense is 1. What they're going to do in the secondary is 2. Jalen Gobo is going to get a shot at corner. Jelani McDonald going to get a shot at nickel. Going to bring in some safeties. Going to see what Kobe Black can do at one of the corners, et cetera. And then the interior DL, where, frankly, other than Alex January, who saw action last year, it's a whole new ball of wax there with whether it's Hero Canoe, Cole Brevard, or Travis Shaw. There's a big number of players there manning the middle. Let's talk a little bit about what those expectations are for you. Yeah. What are we going to see at the end of spring? What do we want to see at the end of spring? Let's talk about the tight end, running back, wide receiver group right now. ESPN, let's start at tight end. ESPN named the breakout player of the spring for Texas at tight end would be Spencer Shannon, not Jordan Washington, which is interesting. Emory Winston, the true freshman, also there. You think that it's going to be interesting? Is Spencer Shannon, the way I see it, Spencer Shannon is the inline tight end. Yeah. Jordan Washington could be a little bit of a flex guy. Is that kind of where you see it?
Yeah, I think so. They're 2 totally different players, I believe. And that doesn't mean they both can't block at the point of attack, right? But I think they're 2 totally different players within the scheme. I think it's interesting. ESPN went there on Spencer Shannon. We'll see if that ends up being correct or not. But I do think both those tight ends are going to have very prominent roles for Texas in 2025, with the question being, does a freshman – Emory Winston's done some good things. I think he's more in the Davis mold of last year.
Juan Davis,
Davis with maybe some more down-the-field pass-catching skills. But what'll be interesting is Nick Townsend coming in August. Does he have enough time, since he wasn't at spring practice, to make a dent in that rotation? Because he's the best athlete of the bunch.
What about the wide receiver group? What are you expecting or hoping to see? Because I really believe that's one of the main primary skill positions we're going to be watching.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting with DeAndre Moore out, right, with the toe after the toe procedure, which is going to ensure he's 100% healthy by the start of next season. The same similar injury that Matthew Golden had. So what that's going to do is open up opportunities for the freshmen. I mean, Dalen McCutcheon, whether it's McCutcheon, whether it's Aaron Butler at the slot, I mean, it's going to open up a lot of opportunity. Could Jamie French play all over the place a little bit? I think it's a huge spring for Parker Livingstone, though, because he's an outside guy. He is a guy who picked up the scheme really well and quickly at Texas. And I think he's got that dependability with him that a quarterback looks for. But here's the thing. He's going to walk out there with the ones, I'm quite sure, next week. But there's some young guys, Khalil Lockett and Jamie French, that are no joke, that are trying to take his job. So Parker Livingstone has to have a strong spring to hold those guys off headed into fall camp. So it's a big spring for the guys who redshirted last year. It's interesting. We always talk about the freshmen that played, right? And then this time of year we start talking about, who are the redshirt guys and how may they be able to mix into this team in 2025? Well, it's huge springs for Parker Livingstone and Aaron Butler.
Yeah, because they got to figure out whether or not they're ahead of the freshmen, or if those freshmen are like uber talented,
yes,
and maybe bypass them. I agree with that. Running back's interesting. We're not going to see Cedric Baxter. We'll see a little bit of Christian Clark, at least we think. We'll see a little bit of Trey Wisner, but they're going to take it easy on him. They kind of know what he can do. Let him rest and heal up his body. Big spring, I think, for Jarrett Gibson and then also James Simon, Ricky Stewart, to see if they're going to even potentially be ready for some role come fall. But Jarrett Gibson, I think it's a huge spring for him.
Yeah, I think it's a huge spring for him because I expect James Simon to do very well this spring. I'll be surprised if we don't hear James Simon as one of the freshmen that looks really good this spring. I just think he's ahead of the curve in the learning department. I think he's ahead of the curve in the instincts for the position, which that's going to put pressure on Jarrett Gibson because I think James Simon's going to be a really good inside zone guy that also has the ability to run outside zone. But he is going to push Jarrett Gibson, I think, because his skill set. And Jarrett Gibson needs to take a big step. And it's a clean slate with Chad Scott coming in. Yes, he's watched the tape, every carry Jarrett Gibson had at Texas, but it's still a clean slate. It's a different set of eyes. It's a different coaching style. And so these guys come in, when a new coach comes in, clean slate. It's
almost like
Jarrett Gibson, huge.
It's almost like we're wondering, like, it's not even the true freshman that we're talking about here. You're talking about Jordan Washington,
red shirts,
or a true sophomore. Jarrett Gibson, a true sophomore. Parker Livingstone, a redshirt freshman / true sophomore. And then you add in a Spencer Shannon, who's a redshirt sophomore, true junior. That's the kind of thing that we're thinking right here on that offensive skill position. Who is the next man up?
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of the story there. Secondary is a little bit different. Yes, there's some young people, but it's more about how you massage existing pieces to the puzzle to make the jigsaw puzzle complete. Right.
Yeah.
And we have Manny Muhammad, Michael Taft, Jalen Gilbo, Jelani McDonald. Those guys saw a lot of time last year, Jerry. Now, you do have Derek Williams, but he won't be all the way back, we don't think, for this spring. Kobe Black, Warren Roberson, maybe Santana Wilson, maybe Cade Phillips. We don't know. Out at the corner. What are you looking for the whole secondary as a whole right now?
It's the corner spot is exactly like a running back, except you have Manny Muhammad as an established starter.
Well, they got Trey Wisner at running back.
Yeah, but outside a little, but with Mark Orfe, I mean, you're coming in and he's pretty much it's a clean slate for all these young kids, right? Or your guys that are already on campus. Similarity between Manny Muhammad and Trey Wisner. Then opposite of that, at the corner, who's going to win that job? Can Jalen Gilbo? I think the thought is, oh, well, Texas moved Barron out there. So, oh, yeah, Jalen Gilbo can go out there. And Jalen Gilbo played a couple of games at corner his freshman year. But it's not add water instant players. It's just never is, right? So there's a different skill set. And there's playing nickel. I agree with Rod Babers. He talked about it Friday on the live stream. It's the hardest position in the secondary is playing nickel. Deion Sanders used to tell people that at the Under Armour All-America game. He used to challenge his guys. Who wants to give it a try? Who wants to work at nickel this week at the Under Armour game? It's the toughest position. So Gilbo has passed the test at the toughest position. I'm not sure he's as good at nickel as Barron was. So would he be as good at corner as Barron was? Probably not. But he has proven himself as a quality player at the nickel position. And I think that's going to be the whole key is when Jalen Gilbo works at corner, what is the end result there? Because I think that's going to tell us a lot about how the rest of this secondary kind of plays out. Because if he sticks at corner, does Wardell Mack become the number 2 at nickel? Solidified number 2 nickel. If Jalen Gilbo stuck at corner, what does that mean for Kobe Black and Santana Wilson? Does it one of the freshmen, does Cade Phillips or Grayson Littleton, who was recruited as a corner by Orfe, do they kind of have a Manny Muhammad spring where people are like, whoa, we don't have an issue now because we got this freshman potential issue. We got this freshman that's going to compete for a starting role. Could it be Caleb Chester out of nowhere? I don't know. But I think the Gilbo is going to set the tone there, as well as is there a freshman that has a spring like Manny Muhammad? That's what's going to – or Santana Wilson is a redshirt, right? It does one of those guys have that type of spring? That's going to tell us a lot about the corner spot and then what they can do at the nickel spot, in my opinion.
I think it's, for me, for the secondary, it's how they push them all together.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I know Dwayne Aquina wants to do, and Steve Sarkisian's mentioned this before, Blake Gideon and Terry Joseph talked about it too, getting the best 5 DBs out there somehow, some way, playing the best 5. That is because that unit, as much as an offensive line unit, has to work in unison.
Yeah.
Right. And I always say that it's important, not just individually, but who plays well together. Hopefully they find that 5 this spring. If not, we'll see if some of the young guys can kind of break into that later. Interior defensive line. I mentioned those 3 guys, Hero Kanu, Cole Brevard, and Travis Shaw. They join Alex January and Melvin Hills, Jerry. The thought process I have here, we know Cole Brevard can play over the ball. My question is Alex January going to be that second guy? Or is it going to have to be Travis Shaw moving in more interior? I'm a little concerned right now about the guy playing over the ball behind Cole Brevard. What do you say to that? Does Texas have a second guy ready to go over the ball right now?
I think Travis Shaw will play both. I think he can play both. He played both at Carolina effectively. Look, I think they're going to be better against the run with this group. I really do. And because I think Cole Brevard is really solid against the run over the ball. And I think Travis Shaw is a over the ball guy or as a 3 is really solid against the run. And I think Hero Kanu is going to be veteran enough in his development as well. And I think Alex January in year 2. So I think they're going to be better against the run. Where I wonder, will one of these freshmen be a disruptor? Or are they going to have to go to the portal for one more that's a disruptive 3? Because you're going to miss where I think Texas is going to miss guys from last year. And I think Jermaine Lolo was a heck of a late pickup. But Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, they were disruptors. And look, that is the question for me. I think they're going to be fine over the ball. I think they're going to be really good against the run. But are they going to be disruptive to the same level they were last year? Or are they going to have to create that with games?
Yes, I get it. Hey, before we let people go here, we want to tell them thank you to our sponsors, and that is our folks over at Vaughn Lane. If you're tired of the hassle of flying or driving in Texas, driving yourself on I-35, I-45, or I-10 is stressful. Airports, long lines, security stress, cramped seats, just getting to your destination is exhausting. Next time you need to travel between Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, skip the stress and ride in style with Vaughn Lane, your private jet on wheels. Experience travel the way it should be. Visit Vaughn Lane. Use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. VaughnLane.com. First class travel without hassle. My buddy took it yesterday, said he absolutely loved it. He had some wine on the way, kicked back a little bit, and didn't have to worry about it once he got downtown Austin. They drop you off right downtown, apparently. And so he was able to hang out there, go to the hotel, et cetera. Hey, Jerry, we mentioned before we leave again, condolences to Kenneth Sims and his family. Texas basketball, we're kind of awaiting what happens there with the coaching search. Sean Miller, Tommy Lloyd, two of the names we've heard. And then also I wanted to mention this. Texas right now, the women play later tonight. The women's basketball team in the round of, I guess it's 64 now. And then if they win that, then they would play round of 32. Both of those games on Saturday and Monday in the Moody Center. Is that that's accurate, right?
That is absolutely
get out there if you can, and if not, root them on TV. Vic Schaefer, Maddie Booker, Rory Harmon, and the ladies get after it later tonight. All right, for Gerry Hamilton, thank you very much, Jerry, for your knowledge as always. I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks also to our producer, Matt Hutchinson. You guys have a good Saturday. Hook 'em.